Glass heart shatter in the middle of the night. Tiptoe screams, but she turned off the light. Masked man walking in the floorboards creak. Saw death's shadow, but she chose not to speak. Phone on silent, eyes wide shut. Truth on lockdown, mouth on shut. 4 souls gone while the moon stood still. But she's a survivor, yeah, that's a tale they sell. You saw the ghost in black. He even walked right past. But you froze and faded out while the world let out. Worry silence in the hallway, heartbeat on the floor. You saw the monster that did not want. Truth tastes bitter when the lies get thick. Pretty little witness, but the story don't stick. Dance with danger while the innocent die. Now the whole world's asking you why. Silence in the hallway, nobody heard the cry. Hours went by.
Welcome to True Crime Unleashed. What I want to go over tonight, guys, is the new lawsuit that Karen Read is bringing forward. Personally, I hope that she gets everything that she's suing for. But will some new evidence be brought out in this case as well? Here we go, guys.
What they laid out in terms of what happened to John O'Keefe?
Yeah, I'm sure this is going to be in terms of the public, and this is, I think, why Karen has filed this now, is she's always trying to win the narrative over, and that's proven to be smart. The public tends to look at the odd things and try to get an explanation for them instead of looking at the fundamental evidence. That's what Rebecca just did here. The fundamental evidence hasn't changed in it since the first trial when it comes to GPS data. It's not really in dispute, and you're not really finding any experts nationally that are saying those are dog bites. So in a trial, defense teams have a way of finding people that they can pull forward for one reason or another. I think the public is going to continue to seize on whatever works for them, and you're going to see this on YouTubers that are going to whatever gets the most views. They're going to sell that version of the story. And I don't know Rebecca's channel, but she's probably going to do the same thing.
Okay. Both guests staying with us. We're out of time for that segment. We've got another one. Coming up next, does the evidence support the allegations of collusion?
This case was corrupted from the start. It was corrupted by biases, conflicts, and personal loyalties.
Murder in the second degree. What say you? Is the defendant at the bar guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty.
Defendant not guilty or guilty? So say you, Mr. Foreman? So say you all? Jurors, where can you be?
That was a moment. I'll never forget it. I was outside there with everyone else waiting to hear what that jury was going to say. And to have that type of reaction and this whole case so different, right? You have hundreds and hundreds of people showing up for someone accused of murdering a police officer and cheering when the words not guilty were uttered. I mean, I don't think I'll ever see anything like that ever again. But now we've got the civil case, and now it's Karen Read making specific allegations. And one of the allegations involves the conspiracy and the collusion among the people in the House and law enforcement. Again, you're going to take a listen to our producer Read from the actual complaint, the civil complaint filed by Karen Read. Take a listen.
Proctor and his colleagues did not search the house for blood evidence resulting from the gash to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head, or for fingerprints, or for DNA evidence. Proctor did not search the house, despite the fact that Mr. O'Keefe was discovered without a winter coat, without the hat that several witnesses said he had been wearing that night, and without his left shoe. At Proctor's direction, the house was never processed by a criminalist or even photographed.
So, at Proctor's direction, the house was never searched. So he sat up there on that witness panel during the trial and lied through his teeth.
No member of the MSP, including Proctor, set foot inside 34 Fairview for nearly a week. The police did not examine or take evidence from the Albert's German Shepherd that was in the house on January 29th, a dog that had a history of attacking other dogs and people. Brian Higgins and Brian Albert continued to coordinate their stories by calling each other multiple times in the early morning hours and ultimately spoke with each other on their cell phones at 2:22 a.m. Later, both Brian Albert and Higgins denied the existence of these phone calls. They coordinated the exact same lie, falsely claiming the multiple calls and answers were just butt dials. However, 5 minutes after the Higgins-Albert call, Jennifer McCabe performed a Google search on her phone at 2:27 a.m. How's long to die in cold? Misspelling the first word. Neither Proctor nor any of the MSP troopers conducted physical examinations of the House defendants for evidence of involvement in the altercation, such as marks on their hands, knuckles, or face, or bruises on their bodies. They did not seize or search the House defendants' phones. They conducted only perfunctory, unrecorded conversations with Proctor's friends and acquaintances without any attempt to coordinate their stories. They permitted would-be witnesses to communicate with each other and coordinate their stories before any formal.
Wow. They allowed witnesses to corroborate their stories together. Ain't that some corrupt type shit?
Interviews. Specifically, Jennifer McCabe became the point person for the House defendants in providing their false narrative to investigators. She managed and communicated details about the House defendants' messaging and the investigation itself, including visiting Proctor's and other investigators' private residences, mapping out timelines to coordinate statements with other witnesses, leading group text message chains that were later partially deleted, and planning private meetings at all hours of the day and night. Indeed, these were never the acts of innocent witnesses seeking to help an investigation concerning the death of an alleged friend. Rather, they were predicate acts of a conspiracy among a group of people with a shared goal of deflecting their criminal exposure onto someone else.
That brings us to the next question in our investigation. It's about this alleged collusion. Does the evidence support these allegations of collusion? Right? It's not just an allegation that John O'Keefe was killed in the house, but everyone in the house is then covering it up, colluding with one another, getting their story straight, and creating a new story. Still with us, helping us with our investigation, journalist, host of the new YouTube series, Something's Off, Rebecca Lavoie, and YouTuber, author.
What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this is new evidence and it could actually draw out his actual killer?
Storm of suspicion, the Karen Reed trials, Kevin Lenahan. All right, Rebecca, what are your thoughts now about the evidence and these allegations of conspiring and colluding?
Listen, the words conspiracy theory are a great rhetorical trap because when you hear conspiracy initially, you think of things like UFOs, tinfoil hats, the government controlling the weather. But what a conspiracy actually is people getting together and deciding to do something. And in this case, likely deciding to protect themselves. Now, I don't think necessarily that what's going on with the cops in Proctor is tied up with whatever went on with these folks. We have now evidence given that his texts and so forth are going to be affecting 19 cases, that he is likely the kind of cop who like to put his thumb on the scales and would have followed the easiest path to a solution. What we do have here, though, are people that you're showing on the screen right now who we watched lie on the stand about their actions that night, about their actions in subsequent days. They threw away their phones after finding out that their phones were going to be preserved as a result of the defense request. This is not one or two cherry-picked things. This is a mountain of things, a lot of lies, a lot of misdirection and a lot of kind of trying to control the narrative in a way that is aggressive and very, very clear and does point to collusion, as you said.
Kevin, your thoughts about the evidence and how it relates to these allegations of conspiracy, collusion, cover-up, framing?
You know, I spent the summer of 2023 trying to look into this as, you know, certainly as an amateur, and I was on the fence. You know, I really kind of started out maybe even leaning towards something maybe happened inside the house. And what really flipped it for me was, and it took me 3 months to get there of trying to get to all the evidence, was finding out where Karen's Lexus was all day and finding out what time the police started finding the main pieces and where they were. And once you learn that, you realize there was simply no time or opportunity to tamper with that vehicle and plant evidence. Now, I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but there just wasn't. And once you realize that, then there's no way there could be a conspiracy. Even if Michael Proctor wanted to plant evidence, he had no opportunity to do so. And so it's hard to imagine any other explanation, especially once then you get the pieces of the taillight that match perfectly to Karen's vehicle. So I'm kind of.
How about the
stunned,
conversations,
you know, Karen,
though? The conversations, the butt dials, the destroyed phones.
Oh, what conversations? I don't know what we should.
The
we
butt
see
dials.
Brian
I
Albert
said
making a phone call.
conversations.
But this,
I said conversations / butt dials. Depends on your perspective, right?
right. So there was a very brief exchange of calls from Brian Higgins' house that lasted a matter of seconds. Not long enough for a conversation. But most of the other stuff that we're mentioning, we don't even know what that was. They're calling that coordinating. Brian Higgins making a phone call from outside the Canton police station. That's coordinating. We don't even know who he was calling. He could have been checking his.
This guy sounds like a typical guilter. He's a typical guilter.
Voicemail. I mean, we have no evidence that he called Brian Albert or coordinated with anybody. Most of that stuff in there is just speculative and some bit beyond speculative.
Rebecca, what are your thoughts? Does it go beyond, or is it taking evidence and then extrapolating a little bit too far, or do you think it's on point here?
Well, the bottom line is whatever they talked about, they lied about having those conversations until they were caught in their lie because of what was revealed in federal documents. When multiple people lie about the same things, in this case, we're talking about phone calls, we're talking about texts, we're talking about things that were deliberately deleted or destroyed and put in separate dumpsters in a military base. We're talking about a group of people who decided to not tell the truth until there was no opportunity or no choice but to tell the truth, or at least tell some version of the truth. I think it is absolutely very interesting. And one thing I want to address that Kevin said is that, you know, Proctor lied about the time that he picked up Karen's car in his report. He made a mistake or lied for many, many, many months, once again, until he was caught with video footage from Karen Read's parents' house, which showed the time being very different, which did actually give him time once the car was in Canton, or give somebody time to tamper with the car. So there's all these little narrative things out there that, again, on their own just seem kind of silly, speculative. It's the combination of them that provides that preponderance of evidence. And for me, it is the lack of veracity of the testimony of these folks in front of the grand jury, lying to the FBI, lying on the stand in both of the trials until the truth came out and they had no choice. That, to me, is what points me in the opposite direction of Kevin.
Kevin, 15 seconds. I'll give you the final word.
Again, it's pulling together things that have ordinary explanations, like the phone that was destroyed at a military base. It was just thrown out with the garbage on an area where they have no town trash pickup. On and on. Everything she said has normal, mundane explanations, but she doesn't look for them.
Rebecca.
He sounds just like your typical guilter. I mean, he really does, guys. Yeah, he accuses her of not looking for this, not looking for that, and it just labels her a conspiracy theorist because she don't believe a certain way, and then he mentions that YouTubers will use this for views, and yeah, I don't like this dude. I really don't. I watched him for a matter of 5 minutes, and I don't like him.
Lavoy, Kevin Lenahan, great to have you both here. Appreciate it. We'll be talking a lot about this. Still to come, does the evidence support the allegations that Karen Read was framed? I'm Vinny Politan. We continue our investigation of the death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Now, the woman found not guilty of his murder has brought formal allegations against the people she says are actually responsible. Here's the story. The death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe and the explosive charges against his girlfriend Karen Read became one of the most polarizing criminal trials of the century. Prosecutors said Read struck O'Keefe with her SUV and left him to die in the snow. Read insists she was being framed, pointing directly at members of the powerful Albert and McCabe families, alleging a cover-up happened inside that Canton home. Her criminal trial ended with a shocking not guilty verdict. Now Read is firing back with a massive civil lawsuit, accusing those same families and law enforcement of conspiracy, civil rights violations, and planting false evidence. As she battles for her reputation, the fight between Karen Read and the tight-knit Canton Inner Circle is entering its most explosive phase yet. Now, Karen Read is not just saying that she was wrongfully prosecuted, right? That I was an innocent person and I was accused of something I didn't do. She's claiming she was actually framed by law enforcement and people in that house for the murder of John O'Keefe. Again, we're going through the civil complaint file.
Oh, I believe it. I believe she was framed. Honestly, believe it.
By Karen Read, and now you'll hear our producer read another section of it, this part dealing with the allegations that Karen Read was framed, that evidence was planted to make it look like she was the killer.
By approximately 2:30 p.m. on January 29th, before he had even met or interviewed Ms. Read or seen her Lexus SUV, Trooper Michael Proctor had already ordered seizure of the vehicle at her parents' home in Dighton. By 4:17 p.m., the vehicle was in MSP's physical possession. Reports shared by the Dighton Police Department in 2023 revealed that the Lexus was towed from Dighton at 4:17 p.m. Proctor's assertion that he seized it at 5:30 p.m. was intentionally false to hide the fact that the car was in police custody for 73 minutes longer than indicated in his sworn affidavits. Proctor maintained that false narrative because it would hide the exact time frame when he had the opportunity to remove pieces of the taillight from Ms. Read's vehicle and bring them back to the house so that he could later claim the pieces had been there since approximately 12:30 a.m. on January 29th. However, unbeknownst to him, driveway video from the Read residence in Dighton and a report written by the Dighton police revealed Proctor's lie and revealed the true and accurate time the Lexus SUV came into MSP's possession. One or more of them destroyed the taillight, secretly took pieces of it into their possession, and then planted some of them in various places at 34 Fairview and on Mr. O'Keefe's clothes. Proctor also planted pieces of glass on the bumper of Ms. Read's SUV while it was in his possession at the CPD Sallyport garage, which he then claimed to have recovered later on February 1st. Proctor planted this evidence to make it look like these shards originated from a cocktail glass that Mr. O'Keefe was holding when he exited the Waterfall bar. Evidently, Proctor did not plan on Karen Read's defense attorneys insisting on forensic testing of the glass shards, which showed that they did not match the cocktail glass in Mr. O'Keefe's possession. In fact, the 5 glass pieces originated from multiple different sources. One shard of glass on the bumper did match another piece of glass that had been in Proctor's possession during the investigation.
Wow. They are catching this dude with freaking planting evidence. Wow.
The only way for the glass to have ended up on the SUV bumper is that Proctor planted it there in an attempt to connect the vehicle to the death of Mr. O'Keefe.
And let's get to the next question in our investigation. This is the one that I think made this trial what it was, right? This wasn't someone saying, I'm just not guilty. This is someone saying they were framed. Does the evidence support these allegations that Karen Read was framed? Again, not just that they're covering up their own behavior, not just an allegation that they're doing.
I say an absolutely 100% yes. Yes, it does support these allegations that she was framed.
Yeah, an allegation they're covering up their own behavior and then framing someone else for a murder that she didn't commit. That is the allegation they're making, folks. All right, here to help answer that question, registered nurse Kim Whalen. She's also known as Nurse Kim on TikTok and YouTube. And Margaret McLean, former prosecutor, host of the podcast, It's a Crime with Margaret McLean. Great to have you both here. All right, Kim, what are your thoughts? Does the evidence support these allegations of Karen being framed?
It sure does, Vinny. And I think it always has. There has been a huge swelling of information post-trial coming out regarding Michael Proctor and some additional information of his behavior and conduct in additional extractions of his cell phone. I don't believe that this happened overnight, but I believe that Karen Read is the catalyst that will show what was done in the dark in Canton on January 29th, 2022 will come to light in this civil suit. And I especially go back to that embedded glass that they stated was in her Lexus SUV in that bumper. And it was never that. It was reported as that by Proctor, but those 5 shards were found and they didn't match any of the cocktail glasses. And then you go back and think of the initial investigation by Canton PD while it was light out, because we had video of the Canton police doing the layer by layer with the leaf blower, and it was light out. No red or clear plastic was found. It was always a frame job.
Margaret McLean, does the evidence support the allegations that Karen Read was framed?
So I want to go back to basics, and according to the law, remember, Karen Read, the plaintiff, has to prove her case. And the evidence can't be, it's direct evidence or circumstantial evidence, but it can't be based on conjecture, guesswork, or theories. So if you really look at that and analyze it, there's no supporting evidence of where that glass came from. There's no supporting evidence that Proctor actually planted that, any shards. There's no photographs of it. There's no direct testimony.
Guilter, 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 guilter. How come he has one person on here that believes the defendant is innocent, and then he has on the other side he has a guilter trying to say, "Oh yeah, no, they're guilty. They're guilty." It's clear that this wasn't an absolute frame job on Karen Read.
Not even circumstantial evidence. There's no evidence that Karen was framed. And there's also no evidence that a fight took place inside the house with all these people as witnesses. We have, remember, testimony from Ian Whiffen where there was a little circle where maybe O'Keefe was in the garage for all of 3 seconds, but how could he have been pummeled, as the civil complaint says? We have to go back to the basics of the law, that she has to prove her case by a preponderance of the evidence. So again, the facts must be supported. And we can't go on all these theories and conjecture because that's in the dog bites, another thing that was in the complaint. That's another.
All these theories and all these conjectures. Well, I hate to break it to you, ma'am, but she was found not guilty of the murder of John O'Keefe. She was acquitted. So, are you going to say that is conjecture and theories? I'm sorry, ma'am, but she was framed. Get over it.
Theory that's not supported by direct or circumstantial evidence.
Kim, I'll give you an opportunity to respond to the allegation that the evidence is merely conjecture.
Yeah, I don't see it as that. I also see us as having a time frame in the Sally Port that video was never produced and it was hidden and it came out in dribs and drabs. And you do see Michael Proctor at the back of that right rear taillight that was sold to the Commonwealth and to all of us at home and to that jury that it was the driver's side, but it really was the exact reverse. And it was Proctor standing at the right rear taillight when it was in that Sally Port. I think that all roads lead to Michael Proctor on this one.
Margaret?
I totally agree with her. It leads to Michael Proctor. But I hope everyone has a good Friday. Make sure you hit that like button, the subscribe button, and click that bell notification. And make sure you click it all from all my new uploads, live streams, and deep dives. I hope everyone has a good weekend. And this is True Crime Unleashed. I'm out, guys. Peace.
Back where the lights don't lie. The wolves are watching in Moscow, Idaho.
Yeah, they said it's open and shut, case on ice. But the facts keep shifting under courtroom lights. Evidence tagged, locked in a sheet, but the truth cuts deeper. It's a double-edged sword beneath.